What is the downside of being attractive? Story 1. Feeling like a trophy to be won rather than a whole human being with actual feelings and wants. There's a higher quantity of attention, but definitely not a higher quality. Answer. Yep. Many people are interested in you, but only a handful actually see you as a person when they won you over and invest something into the relationship. Often it's just the hunt and showing you to people, but nothing more than that. One of my ex-boyfriends literally forbid me to talk and just wanted me to look pretty when he introduced me to friends. Story 2. When you are attractive and an introvert, people think you are aloof and stuck up. I swear, being an introvert is a curse. Answer. This is so true. Can't even count the amount of times I've heard someone call a sweet but kind of shy quiet woman I know rude or conceited. She is stunningly beautiful, has a perfect face if there ever was one. She is not rude at all, but is just a more quiet person who prefers to observe in social settings where she doesn't know people well. This, coupled with the fact that she is so pretty, really sets something off in people, both men and women. Says a lot about how entitled people feel to women's energy, love, etc. Really unfair. Story 3. People thinking you've got it made, without realizing that there's more to life than being really, really ridiculously good looking. Story 4. Answer. Once I got a promotion, I'd worked my jerk off for years. Was told by an often sexist coworker, I bet things like this come really easy for you. A lot of little moments like that at work. Also people approaching to jam make music or collaborate on a creative project just to find out they only want to bang. Waste of my time. I get excited about the offer, then let down. It's just depressing. Story 5. If you let it become your personality, it'll slowly drain your soul. There's always going to be someone that is more attractive. There's always going to be days where you just don't have it. You're playing a game and that's impossible to win. I guess this is why people go the plastic surgery route, chasing some ideal look that never seems to satisfy. Story 6. People usually think that's all you got, especially if you're a woman. Everyone wants to humble you and will do just about anything to do that. Attract a lot of predatory people, fake friends, fake romance. Someone once told me they had to give me a hard time because everyone else bends for me, which has never been true. I'm actually easy to get along with and happen to be a decent human being. Unwarranted jealousy and competition. Story 7. It shouldn't matter with people you know and trust, but it's harder to read a stranger's motives when they try to interact with you. Story 8. An attractive female gets a lot of unwanted attention. Knew someone that had been constantly assaulted in public. Answer. Yes, I got that even as a child. There were a lot of flashers in my neighborhood, and for some reason, they just loved showing little 7-year-old me their male body part. It happened like 6 times before I was 18. One day, a stranger drove up to me as I was crossing the street and grabbed one of my breasts, then took off. I was mortified. I was with my sister and I made her swear to never, ever tell anyone that had happened. I was about 15 at the time. Later that same year, I was violation for the first time. I'm not attractive anymore and haven't been for a very long time. That's totally okay with me. Story 9. It's hard to keep my male friends BC. Most of them try to date me at some point and then they ghost me when I turn them down. I know it's painful to be rejected by your crush, but it's also painful to someone I valued as a friend because of their feelings. The amount of casual infidelity that comes my way is disturbing. I catch a lot of men who are out with their wives and families leering at me. When I worked retail, I had a man come up to me telling me how beautiful I was. He just needed to wait for his wife to go out to the car before he could approach me. Makes me feel gross and guilty, even though it's not my fault. Some people don't take my problems seriously because who cares if your mental health sucks or you have insecurities? You're hot, that's all that matters. As if my looks can cure my brain. Answer. Look, there's a lot of guys that really do only hang out with a chick because they want to smash. And if she were the same personality person as a dude, They wouldn't hang because you wouldn't click otherwise. They're only laughing at your jokes because they want to smash. I'm a dude, but I've had female friendships that turned out be about male attention more than a true friendship. The minute they got a boyfriend, they disappeared. And shoot, was legit friendship on my side. Feels like you got hoodwinked. Anyway, I guess the idea is to ferret it out quickly. Those fake friendships feel good at first because you hope they are real. But I think if you looked at it harshly, you would spot it right away. It's almost like you want it to be real, but it simply isn't, so you'll pretend it is. As a dude, I think friendships with girls you are attracted to, or were attracted to, are definitely possible as long as it's clear any kind of thing is off the table. I mean, the dude believes that, not just waiting to spring his plan. Now, if the chick is a 1010 Victoria's Secret model, unless she's one of the funniest, coolest chicks on the planet and the guy is Buddha-level maturity, it's gonna be a tough one for him to have a close relationship that completely ignores intimacy feelings. Story 10. People immediately assuming any social abnormality is ego, that you're just a stuck-up jerk. Sir, I have autism. I'd love to be able to join in the party chat, but so many people are talking at once that I can't think through the right things to say that mesh with all of it. Story 11. I'm a flight nurse. People I work with say the hospital staff that we drop off to is only nice to me because I'm an attractive male, and the nurses think I'm cute. Not because I worked hard and provided high-quality patient care, which I pride myself on. Story 12. Be a pretty woman and see how that job interview goes. You get hired by men. You get rejected by women. Story 13. I grew up unattractive, and apparently as an adult, I hit a second puberty because now I get a lot of male attention. I've never had a romantic relationship, but I can't seem to get it because men just look at me as an intimacy object rather than a person. So I was already lonely because I felt ugly, but now I'm lonely because I'm a piece of meat. Story 14. Honestly, you will be disliked on a lot more as an attractive guy, and in the most annoying ways too. The truth is, if you're attractive, any and every insecure guy will try to drag you down in their presence. Where I live, this is very common in guys. This sort of crab bucket mentality is very strong here. And if you're a good-looking guy, you'll be relentlessly shat on by random, older men or insecure guys around your age that need to make themselves feel better. Answer: women do this too. I'm not even that good-looking, but my best friend at the time was overweight. She used to always make comments about how easy my life is because I'm skinny and blonde, how the guy at the cash register was nice to me because I'm skinny and blonde, etc., etc. Never mind that my mom had just died from cancer, or that I'm struggling with grief and depression. My life is easy because men who don't know me and have no intention of loving me might consider fudge me over you. Like fudge off. Story 15. Being also introverted, socially awkward, and socially anxious. When I gained 70 lbs in my early to mid-20s due to depression, it was a relief to be basically invisible. Now I'm a fit nearly 50 and haven't bothered dating in over 20 years. Peace and quiet suits me. And it turns out it was undiagnosed autism all along. Story 16. Great people don't approach you because they know you're out of their league. As a consequence, those who have the courage to do so are usually douchebags. Answer: my best friend win a 6 model in a house party. The woman was ready to be a Playboy cover for real, and he looked like Pee Wee Herman. OMG. I was so happy to see that shy nerd just rocking the world with the most beautiful girl in our entire town just because he approached her. No one ever approached her. Ever. And he do not talk with her about her beauty, her height, her model career. No. They talked about Disney movie Dinosaur. 20 years later, I still proud of him. And he married a astonishing beautiful meanie. Good for him. Story 17. You can never be sure if people genuinely like you or not. If you're ugly and people like you, you know that's real. Story 18. Not being taken seriously, or people thinking you're dumb, because you can't possibly be good-looking and smart. Story 19. Main issue for me as a woman is jealous, insecure friends. Most friendships I've had, the girls secretly dislike me, and it always came out with dislike comments about my appearance, trying to embarrass me in front of other people, or just the looks on their face when other people call me beautiful or compliment me. It's always made me uncomfortable and feel I need to make myself look less attractive when I'm around them to not trigger their insecurities. I've become very hyper-aware of it over time, so I just stick to myself. I wouldn't call the excessive male attention a downside, because I don't even really pay attention to it anymore and use it to my advantage a lot of the time. Also, as someone with social anxiety, it's rough because people genuinely stare at you whenever you're out in public. Answer: yes. Literally one time I put on mascara without telling my friend before a hangout, only mascara, and she wasn't wearing any makeup, so she went to the bathroom to try to hurry up and do her makeup. And while she was in there getting ready, I tried to gel my hair up a little and make myself look more neat. And she got infuriated and said, "You already have on mascara. Why do you need to do your baby hair in a very aggressive tone? Like, LOL. Okay, my bad." I always looked at her different after that. Not to mention, she never ever complimented me unless we were tipsy, but all her exes would. She's not my friend anymore. Story 20. As a conventionally attractive woman, making friends can actually be hard. Men see me as either a romantic prospect or an object. Women assume I'm a meanie or treat me poorly BC of their own insecurity. The intimacy harassment is never ending. I've been catcalled by men while walking since I was a child. I've been honked at, groped, and stared at for simply existing. I'm not allowed to have low self-esteem, but I'm also not allowed be confident. As a pretty, blonde, white, thin-bodied woman, people have no compassion that I also struggle with body image and insecurities of my own. As if I've never experienced my own trauma. But if I acknowledge my beauty, I'll be chastised for it. Other people's projections forced on me. Because I'm pretty, I must also be dumb, conceited, and shallow. Story 21. You become hyper-aware of how people look at you. Many people eye you like meat, like you shouldn't be alone in a room with them. A lot of insecure women treat you as a threat, even if you'd never want their crusty dude. Worse if you're naturally friendly. People act like that's an invitation for intimacy when you're just not meanie. And there's always another scumbag that wants to use you. You get rid of one scumbag, here comes another. I've been violation early on in dating. I've been violation in my sleep by friends. Dudes jacked off to my voice on phone calls in dating and at my old job. I have a kid because an ex screwed with my BC to trap me. I've had several stalkers. I've been begged that if I don't date someone, they'll eliminate themselves. Plus, people you don't even want will get high off the idea of rejecting you. It's all crazy. Honestly, it's harder to think of upsides. Answer: I'm seeing this develop with my beautiful granddaughter. Her so-called friends treat her terribly and she is hurt, but just accepts it apparently because she's grown used to it. I'm so sad for her, but hoping that when she starts college this fall, she'll find her own group and new friends. But now, actually, I have to wonder if this type of jealousy is going to follow her for some time. Story 22. I was never beautiful, but I guess I was reasonably pretty in my younger years and faced my share of harassment. I did get hit on a lot, mostly by people I was not interested in, and they would get angry if turned down even if I tried to do it nicely. I learned to not do it nicely. Story 23. People assume you're put together and have it easy, take experiences for granted, etc. Also, my girlfriend in particular dislike it when people flirt with me with her right there. I put a stop to it quick, but it still happens. Story 24. I'm not sure if other women will agree, but I defo found this. I would say I noticed I was pretty for my age, especially when I hang around with older people. It always seemed like people would expect you to be more intimacy advanced than my peers, expecting me to have done stuff and been intimacy with others. They would say, "But you're so hot, of course you have," when I would say I haven't done anything. It made me quite uncomfortable. Because I was attractive, I was instantly expected to be intimacy advanced and freaky. Unsure if there's a correlation, lol, or just teenage boys. Story 25. People won't actually appreciate your talent. They'll believe you're just good looking, and that's your secret for success. Story 26. The expectation from women that just because she finds you attractive and you find her attractive that you should be hitting on her. I'm not hitting on every woman that might have intimacy with me. I got a lot of life problems that consume my day-to-day. I'm just trying to get through the week. Story 27. Being intimacy harassed everywhere I go. Boys taking pictures without my consent all throughout my life. And then showing me what they say about me in group chats because they think it'll flatter me. Boys coming up to me in the 7th grade and telling me how great my boobs would look in a push-up bra and lingerie. Boys pretending to help me in computer class just to grope me from behind. I have millions of stories and I'm only 29. People heavily underestimate how disgusting boys can be. Story 28. They always judge you for how pretty you are, but I thought you were taller. You had a different voice. You were cooler. Story 29. I used to be invisible for the most part. I was never ugly, but not that attractive. All that changed once I got a little older, took care of myself, found my style and learned basic makeup, moved to a more diverse city, am not white, where I feel stressed, it's just too much. I don't want to be perceived or looked at all. But it happens and you can't control it. I can't even imagine what truly exceptionally attractive people deal with. Story 30. People being intimidated by you and assuming you have a partner so no one ever approaches you and you end up single forever. Sigh. Story 31. I'm not even that attractive, but everyone assumes I was hired because of my looks and treats me like a little girl. I'm a 32-year-old project manager who's worked for the company for years, but people still often talk to me like a secretary on the second day of my job, while my male-less attractive female co-workers get a lot more respect and recognition. I used to think that it was about my skills, but that changed when we employed a very attractive woman. She had the same experience as me, but times 10. I was privy to how people talked about her. Her secret nickname was Sexy Steph, and the amount of times people made inappropriate comments about her and her work behind her back was ridiculous. She didn't last long, and I'm not surprised. Story 32. Personally, I feel nervous to be around men. Bosses, friends, etc. In my experience, they always try to make a move. Story 33. If you became attractive later in life, you aren't used to it. The attention becomes addictive, and the need for the validation you once didn't have but now do becomes destructive. Story 34. Being heavily sexualized from a very young age and subsequently forming a complicated, shame-filled relationship with intimacy and your own body. Story 35. In my industry, hot PPL are more like a commodity PPL, don't really take them seriously. And whenever they speak, everyone's like, "Aw, that's cute, so pretty LOL." Story 36. You wonder if people would like you as much if you weren't. The answer is usually, probably not LOL. Story 37. You make a bunch of fickle friends and can't tell who the real ones are until you shave your head. Haha. Story 38. People are entitled to date you but get extremely pissy when you reject them. I'm not attractive, but unfortunately, I see it happen way too many times with attractive people. They're humans, not a trophy. Story 39. For a couple years of my life, I was worked out quite frequently. It was odd. I had more attention but also felt I wasn't actually being seen. Story 40. A higher of people staring at you. And if you are a little insecure, it can really trigger some anxiety. Story 41. I'm 6'7", and people think it makes me look good, but I'm just autistic and easy to break. I have trust issues that cripple me because of it. Stop bullying lonely tall people, IRL. We can't handle it any better than you can. Story 42. Decent good men won't approach because they think an attractive woman wouldn't be interested. Such a shame. Narcissistic abusers are the only ones who will. Story 43. People assume that you can't have any problems and get the world handed to you. Secondhand knowledge from friends. Story 44. Some people dislike you because of it. I have also been violation before, and that really sucked. Most people assume that your life is somehow easier because of it, when in reality, we all have the same struggles in life. Story 45. People judging you harshly, or thinking that they are entitled to your time. I've been told that I look stuck up, meanie, intimidating, etc. so many times I've lost count. But what really gets me is when I thought we were friends, and it turns out they just want to fudge. Then it's, you aren't even that attractive, or something similar. Catcalling is up there too. I'm just trying to exist and go grocery shopping. Story 46. As a woman, men just stare but never approach you, thinking you're taken. And the women dislike you often because they think you're full of yourself. Friends compete with you, or secretly celebrate your misfortunes. It can be a lonely life. Story 47. Jealousy. Mean relatives. Friends. Everyone knows the perks of being attractive. You will get a lot of attention and kindness, but no one will ever talk about the dislike that brings, especially if it's from relatives and close friends. That scars will last longer. Story 48. Formerly attractive dude, I didn't like the attention personally. Getting my jerk slapped or unsolicited hugs from near strangers felt uncomfortable. Luckily now I'm chubby and balding before 30, so I'm a lot less people's type, and that has helped avoid unwanted touching. Story 49. That for some people, specifically men, aren't considered attractive until much later in life. And once you get older or middle age, you start getting compliments. You don't know how to respond because nobody compliments you as a young man, so you're not experienced with how to respond to it. So, you try to change the topic or say some joke or something to divert the conversation. Story 50. A lot of women I date assume I have a roster or a side piece, so they decide to cheat on me because ain't no way, as their own words, no way you don't have multiple girls at your house when I'm not there. And I would ask, why? I'm content with one partner. Because you're too hot, I don't believe you. Or they'll say, I just know tons of girls approach you, which in reality, only one girl ever in my life approached me. And that was 15 years ago. I legit just want one relationship. I don't want a side thing. Story 51. Stories from my female friends. From the perspective of a C-suite woman in tech, absolutely no one takes your recommendations seriously. Your male colleagues question your directives and go over your head a lot. From the perspective of a doctor, absolutely no one takes your recommendations seriously. And patients call you Dr. Barbie in a condescending way. This was before the movie when it became empowering to be called Barbie. From the perspective of a teacher, it's the best. Kids are way nicer to you, and you don't have to work as hard to get them to trust you. Do what you say. Adults still don't take your recommendations seriously, though. Story 52. People not actually listening. I also have a deep, soothing voice, so I'm never actually in a conversation, just there as a plus one. Story 53. I wasn't the prettiest girl growing up, so maturing has been a delightful treat. And consequently, I've been on both sides of this spectrum. My upbringing made me kind, understanding, and inclusive, almost to a fault. I dislike for someone to feel excluded or like they don't belong. It's just awful. So I choose to be kind, friendly, and respectful. Now it gets taken advantage of all the time. Although I appreciate the newfound admiration, I lost all bodily autonomy. People just come up to you and touch you, grab you, etc. Can't listen to music with both headphones in. Guys just sneak up on you and jump scare the fucking life out of you. I try not to be rude since it's impossible to ignore them, especially when they're so persistent. You're kind of pressured into conversations. The worst is men will assume that I'm underage and still come up to me, but start the conversation by asking how old I am, then proceeding to flirt and ask you out without even introducing themselves. Like, no? I don't even know you? When you have friends, you completely alienate yourself when you complain about it to them. Can't get too close to girls. They view you as competition. Can't get too close to guys. They just want to fudge you. Not saying it's a bad thing, but it is discouraging knowing that people only want to talk to you to get something from you. You never know who's genuinely interested in you as the person you are underneath the surface. I just want to belong. Story 54. Always lusted for, never loved. Also, everyone thinks everything in life is easier just because you're pretty. Story 55. As a woman, other women are jealous of you or dislike you for no reason, making it hard to make and keep friends. Men follow you around, harass you, stalk you, sometimes grope you in public. Dating less conventionally attractive partners often leads to them being insecure, jealous, and controlling, never being seen as smart or capable of anything. I have a biochem degree, and men with high school diplomas feel entitled to talk down to me about science. Not being taken seriously. People think you're vapid and shallow. For me, that couldn't be further from the truth. Also, I wouldn't say I'm drop-dead gorgeous or like a 10-10 or anything, but I know I'm above average attractive, and that's enough for all of this to happen. Supermodel types probably get all this and worse. Story 56. The absolutely insane amount of people out there who think you need to be taken down a notch and that they're the ones to do it, especially if you have other things going for you too. You get a lot of positive attention, but also a consistent onslaught of jabs and criticism. Story 57. Proof. The downsides of being attractive are nowhere near as bad as the downsides of being unattractive. Not even close. Story 58. I don't want to be one of those men's rights guys, but older women can be creepy as fudge, especially at work. Story 59. Always have to carry a stick to fend off the swarm of women. Learned this from a high karate commercial. Story 60. I have an attractive male friend, and from what I have seen in person and heard stories about, seems like it can be a slog. He's had numerous uncomfortable situations in public with girls approaching him and just randomly kissing him, or accidentally bumping into him just to put their hands on him. As an introverted person, he says it all just makes him very uncomfortable, and he tries to avoid eye contact with women as a result. Story 61. 1. Harassment, which can happen to anyone, but happens much more to attractive people, especially women. 2. Jealous partners. 3. Lots of people assume there's nothing else about you that is interesting or impressive, and that you've spent your whole life coasting along on good looks. 4. People assume it is just something you're born with and not a skill or anything that takes effort, which for me personally is very untrue. I work hard to look like I do. Story 62. Being used by others for your looks body without anyone really wanting to get to know you. Also, judgment from other women when it is unwarranted. Story 63. Worrying that the guy you're dating is only dating you for your beauty. The fear that he'll lose interest the second you lose some of that beauty, i.e. pregnancy, getting seriously ill, etc. Story 64. Too many false friends who don't really give a shoot about you as a person. They disappear once you reach a certain age or gain a little weight. Story 65. People want to date you, but they want to fill in your personality. They try to create their ideal image with good looks, ideal personality for them. Then they get mad when you're not acting how they want you to act. If the other person is controlling, they will try to pre-plan your life together to fit exactly what they want. Also, good chance they'll love bomb you. People act like they deserve someone attractive and will twist the rest of the world to get that person. Often feels like no one likes your personality because then they date for your looks. They break up with your personality when it doesn't match what they want. Story 66. When you're attractive and have a good vibe, people often assume you're flirting, even when you're just being nice. Story 67. Well, people usually just assume my life has been smooth sailing since I have such good looks. But it couldn't be more wrong. I'm a mess stole. Story 68. A lot of people I liked would lead me on, then lose interest in me once they find out that I'm a flawed human and not someone to be placed on a pedestal. Similar to the problems of a wealthy person have are people dating them or for their money. Now I have trust issues because, are you dating me for my looks or my personality? I try to go for the shyer types now because if someone comes on too strong, chances are they are overly confident, opportunist, and potentially a narcissist. Problem is that I'm shy too, so who's gonna make that first move? Story 69. Partners want to experience you, but not actually get to know you. While it may seem that being attractive makes dating easy, it can be quite a mind fuck when you want something more and realize there is more value being placed on how you look instead of who you are. Story 70. I've had people I date call me attractive online and act super into me, but then back out once they spend more time with me and see my more introverted personality. It's pretty hard when you don't have game. Story 71. You really attract such wrong energy. Whatever you do, people are so curious. Mostly, people are jealous and salty, and it's very hard to get good company. Story 72. Women put their hands on me, and everyone thinks that it's okay for them to do that. Just because they have a female body part, it doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. Story 73. In my peak, I noticed women didn't feel bad for me when I wasn't doing well. People were generally nicer and more helpful to me. But when I was depressed or tragic end or something was going on, I felt like people acted like it was impossible that I would know what it's like to not do well. Some others would be random guys, jealous girlfriend if they talked to me, jealous friends, creepy men, and I noticed particularly unattractive women talk to me like I was slow. That was one that always surprised me. I've noticed if a woman is attractive, she is called stupid and selfish no matter what. I think women feel relief about a woman being better looking than them if they can find a flaw like that in her, and people tend to believe those things if you say them about an attractive girl. I gained some weight recently and don't look the same at all. Most of these issues have resolved, yay. Story 74. People staring at you and you thinking, it's BC, there's something wrong with you, or they are making fun of you. It makes you insecure over time and makes you not want people looking your way. Story 75. In college, you'll feel excluded among groups because girls will dislike you for being pretty, and for guys you'll always be a prize to win. You will always attract predators and stalkers. You'll always have to keep your guards up. Story 76. Been lusted over since childhood. Rarely have I been loved. I worry constantly that my looks are fading with age, and it's the only thing that I had going for me because it's what everyone has always focused on. Story 77. People assume you have intimacy a lot or that it's somehow an accomplishment. You also usually get admired and judged for your looks before other things that make you who you are. Story 78. My face is conventionally attractive, but I am far from a conventional person. People, mostly men, make a lot of very incorrect assumptions about me based on my face. I'd rather be left alone. Story 79. Hello, I'm just here to say that attractiveness is relative, and so no matter what you look like, there's someone out there who is definitely into that shoot. But with that being said, not knowing if someone's interested in you because you have a good personality or if they just want to be close because you're hot, not knowing if praise or compliments on things other than your looks are genuine, aching to be plain and gray because at least then people would look at who you are as a person. Sometimes it goes into self-mutilation or neglect territory. People assuming you're out of their league and must have all the friends and partners in the world, which ironically leads to a touch of loneliness. Because if everybody already thinks you're goddamn Casanova, they're not going to actually befriend you since you supposedly already have all the relationships and friends you could ever ask for. Just look at you. Being a living object of resentment, no matter how body positive and a big ally you are. Being put on a pedestal you didn't ask for. Not being able to console friends or others who talk about discrimination they face based on their looks, because it gets misconstrued as condescending, or good luck if you're an introvert, good luck if you're depressed. Story 80. One of my exes was a solid 10-10. Absolutely stunning. Looks wise, way out of my league. She'd have guys throw themselves at her daily. Like, she would be in a coffee shop and some guy would approach and offer to take her on an expensive vacation. After it was over, she went on a date with an NHL player, Maxime Lapierre. She was that hot. Anyway, when people throw themselves at you, any sort of rough patch or boredom meant you can just get another dude. She didn't have to adapt or change to any circumstance because there was always a guy to suit her mood. I later surmised she was sick of all the aggressive player guys after her and wanted something chill, boring, and safe, which I was. My ideal time would be to sit at home and mystery science theater and tell stupid jokes. We would spend like 5 hours at a time talking to each other on the phone for no reason, like multiple times a week. She was a bit nerdy and actually enjoyed me for that time. I think that was her part of her personality that didn't get to be shown that often. But alas, she got bored and met another guy and I was out of the picture within a few months. We weren't too invested in it, so I wasn't heartbroken or anything like that. We later got engaged to separate people and coincidentally broke up with our respective fiancés the same weekend like years later. We both kind of thought that this was some sort of act of fate. I went to visit her, but I changed. I wasn't the young guy blinded by hotness. But she didn't. She just viewed me as some backup guy. She liked our time together and knew I had a great job, was loyal, had a similar sense of humor, and she thought, what a great fallback option. But I acquired some self-worth, confidence, and insight to people's motivation, and knew what her viewpoint of me was, so I did not pursue it beyond that weekend. She got married a few years later, got divorced, and randomly contacted me like 6 years later. I knew her MO and immediately talked about how my kid was doing and how I'm looking forward to my other kid being born in a few months, and she got the hint that I was not available, nor will I ever be. She was a smart, quirky girl. I firmly believe that she was a 6'10" or 7'10", her life would have been much, much better. Heck, I wish she was a dude so we could have just hanged out as best buds. But her personality didn't match the guys that hit on her. She never learned to adapt to hardships or people, and she never grew as a person when it came to relationships. People ask if I ever get mad at